The 5 Elements of Letting Go, the podcast. Discussing mental health openly and freely, and learning tools and techniques to find peace. All right, welcome to the 5 Elements of Letting Go podcast. I'm Jared McCollum. I have with me today Mackenzie, Dawson, Agnew, and I'm just going to introduce her quickly here before we get going. I've known Mackenzie since you were 8 years old. Okay.
Yeah.
And I treated her in this very room when she was a little one.
Yep.
So I've known her for a while, and Mackenzie now she's done so much since I last remember you as a little 8-year-old. She's got her degree, a Bachelor of Science in Kinesiology. She a recent graduate studying acupuncture and Chinese medicine. She is a personal trainer and a transformational specialist. She's got lots of training in her background, and works helping people just finding that peace and balance they want in their life, just not only physically but also with their health and their mental health. And that's why I wanted to invite her along today to talk about things. She has a very interesting story. I won't get too much into it because she can share what she chooses to. But we all have our ups and downs in life, and I've always been very impressed with how well Mackenzie handles things. And I thought we'd have a talk about it. So everyone, Mackenzie.
Hello.
All right. So Mackenzie, to start with, I just like to ask everyone where they feel, in their opinion, like on mental health. It's something that not a lot of people like to talk about or have some fear around. How is it for you?
I love mental health. I think that it's almost like a receipt of how your internal body's working. Like if your mental health's off, then like definitely things inside of you are not quite cooperating, like some imbalances or chemical kind of disruptions. So I like even just daily kind of taking my mental health and using that as like a check-in point to where I'm doing like in my insides, like how my diet is, like have I been meditating, who have I been hanging around, kind of just like a little checkpoint of what's going on in my internal world.
Because you're my understanding of how your mind works is you are incredibly detail oriented, goals and checklists, and you're a little bit of a perfectionist. Am I correct on that?
I'm a recovering perfectionist.
Hey, I love that. That's a great way to say it. Okay, tell me about that.
For me, I think I've had OCD tendencies my whole life. I mean, when I was little, I was washing my hands a lot and kind of being scared of germs, which clearly I'm over now that I'm around people in a clinic, so I don't do that. But that's kind of where it was. And then I was counting sidewalk blocks and just kind of having those, my brain was fixated on something and it had to just be like counting and things like that. And then when I was in school, it became like a superpower. I could really use that pattern or kind of thought processing to my advantage. So I fixated on school and memorizing and repeating things, and it got me to where I was when I used that skill and kind of saw it in a different way. Before it kind of held me back. I would be running late because I had to wash my hands 7 times and I had to check the stove was off 11 times, and it really took over my life. But then with school, I definitely like put it towards something else and use it to get somewhere in life.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're able to transfer it to something that kind of got in the way or was a bit of a perceived weakness, and you transformed it into a bit of a strength.
Yeah, but I think that's everything. You have something and you can either choose to view it in that negative way or kind of work with it, not against it.
And so was it always a strength in school?
No,
she's shaking her head for those that are listening.
Oh yeah, it's a podcast.
That we are recording as well, but
no, I get very fixated on numbers, and so like my grades or even like my body weight or numbers that I'm lifting in the gym, that kind of was what my worth was based off of. So yeah, it definitely wasn't always a superpower, but it did have its benefits.
Interesting. And so one other thing I know a little bit about this from what I've, heard around things, but if you can share with everyone, uh, when because you've had issues with celiac and all of this and, some serious health scares for a while. When did all of that start?
That started when I was actually like a baby. I had a seizure after a vaccination, and then since then everything was just kind of a little bit off. So I had kind of allergies and things like that. But when I was 17, that's when everything was kind of at its heightened, including my OCD, like the mental health, my physical health, everything at like 17 was probably at its worst.
What do you think triggered it?
For me, I think that with like mental health, there's a lot of internal things that go on as well, like definitely situational. And, my parents got divorced and I don't talk to my biological dad. Like there's definitely like the situational things we go through that kind of determines that. But then there's also your internal health where because I wasn't absorbing my food because I am celiac, I was malnourished basically. And I was lacking in key vitamins, and your brain needs certain minerals and vitamins to work properly. So I think with mental health, definitely there's like the chemical imbalance, hormonal imbalance as well that can impact that as well.
Really interesting. So you, now I've seen some pictures from around that age. And so what kind of symptoms did it lead to?
There was kind of two things going on at the same time. I had, I think I don't really know what I classify it as, but a body image disorder. So I currently weigh like 135, but I was at like 89 pounds, and that's after I started gaining weight. And part of that was being due to being celiac and malnourished. But then since my brain wasn't getting nutrients, I was then my OCD was really bad. I was fixating on things, and one was the weight on the scale. And so to me, I was having to be, oh, no, skinnier, and you get obsessed with that. And that's all I would think about was pretty much that.
Wow. So what kind of supports were you able to get at that time?
A lot. Like my mom is super awesome. I was seeing a counselor.
Your mom is super awesome.
My mom is super awesome. She's
brownie points with mom.
I know. Yeah, my mom was awesome, but also it's hard because seeing your child go through that kind of stuff, it wouldn't be the easiest. I think she was struggling with it on her own, and she's very much so an emotional problem solver. So having her involved was kind of not. I didn't always listen to her because I thought it should just be my mom. So I had a really good counselor at the time when I was in university, which helped with how retraining your brain how to think, basically. So retraining these neurological pathways to go in different directions, to fixate on other things and to be more balanced, because part of it is like a neurological like wiring of your brain. So she was good on kind of like the scientific and even like situational things, working out, stemming where that body image information came from. And then I also saw a naturopath, which was doing like DNA testing and testing different levels of nutrients in my body, which I was definitely lacking in. So then I got different like IV therapies and different supplementation that would bypass my whole digestion system. That way I was able to actually fully absorb my nutrients. And so kind of my mom, this counselor, and then the naturopath with actually feeding my physical body nutrients all kind of came together. And it took about probably 3 years.
Wow.
And then I was finally able to be feeling a bit better.
Yeah. So what was it like? Like, could you feel the difference between, when that shift finally happened, when you finally felt like balanced and nourished? Like, what did it feel like? Did you feel like you were in a fog for all those years, or?
Yeah, like I almost feel like it was someone else's story that I always tell, because it doesn't even, like, the mindset I was in, I know I was in it, but to look back at it, I'm like, what the heck? Like, it's not even, it's almost like a whole different person.
Yeah.
And it's almost like my whole personality, and I wasn't even in my body. So at the time, and these are my actual thoughts, I wouldn't stop running until my shoes had blood on them. And that
from your feet?
From my feet, from running. Like, I wouldn't go for 14 kilometers. I would go until my feet would bleed. And that at the time, like, to say it now seems crazy, but in the time, that was my reality.
Yeah.
And so that was one thing. Or like another thing, maybe I'd be puking. That would be my next thing. Okay, I work out until I puke. And if I don't puke, if it's 4 hours and I haven't puked yet, I'm going to continue to go. Wow. And like, so those were, again, to say it now, it seems crazy. But in the meantime, when you are in that state or not in your body, those are true true thoughts.
I think too, like I've worked with a number of patients that either pull their hair out or cut or things like this. And I do think when we are in that imbalanced state, mentally, because we're having a hard time dealing with our current emotions and, the trauma in our mind, or because we can't feel that, or we're afraid to feel those emotions, we'll use anything to distract us. Like we want to feel something, but we don't want to feel that. So when, like in talking with patients that have had that, what I find is when those thoughts and feelings come up, they want to distract themselves.
Yeah.
And it's the same for people who use drugs and alcohol. It's just another way to numb those feelings or distract you from feeling something.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that was the case for you, but there's this idea of, I'm going to go until I can get that something that distracts me from what I'm going through, the pain I'm feeling.
Yeah. And it's almost like kind of like torturing yourself in a way, but like it feels good because like you're getting towards something, right? And it is like that numbing. Like I wasn't taking drugs, but I was over exercising to that point.
Yeah.
And with that counselor,
She's playing footsies with me.
With that counselor, she was really good for like the situational, like the trauma I'd been through in my life. So what we figured out was that my biological dad left when I was super young, and I thought I had kind of dealt with it in a way, but then trauma kind of comes up in different ways in your life and it manifests in different patterns. So even though I didn't think that my body image and my dad leaving were the same kind of root cause, with her help, I learned that if I felt like I couldn't be loved by a like paternal parent, then how could a random stranger, how could a boy like me? So then I thought that, okay, if I looked a certain way, then they'll love me. And so like, you're not thinking that as you're making these decisions, but that's like the underlying like root cause of it. And as soon as I worked through that, the body image thing, it really changed. And now I know that my worth is determined by, smiling at a stranger, holding a door open for someone, like the books I read and what I learn and like how I treat people, like that's how I view my worth. And at the end of the day, I have like a little checklist in my head. I'm like, yep, I have the door open for somebody. You just kind of put good into the world, and that's what my worth is determined from versus all those numbers.
Yeah. I think too, it's interesting with, you say it was like I was a different person that time. I don't even remember it. But I think people think we're static beings. We're born this person and we'll always be this person. But we're not. We change all the time. We continue to evolve, and our experiences and our choices continually change us. And that's good. That's okay. And I think our trauma is very similar in that, it changes and adapts depending on the situation we're in. Whereas a young child, there's not really that connection or understanding. So you experience it, but you get over it, you kind of let it go. But then new experiences in your life, through, being a young adult and a youth, you're concerned about what men think of me, what the boys are going to think. And that brings back that trauma in a different way. And now you've reinterpreted this. Well, will this affect me on this way? And you start thinking. And I think everyone that's my concern with people, how they deal with mental health, is I think, you've done that. You're over it. We're never really over our stuff. It's always going to be there, but we always have to stay on top of it and find new ways to reinterpret it and let it go and adjust with it. Yeah, very interesting. So you, with all the weight you lost, they were able to find out eventually that it was celiac disease?
Yep.
Okay.
So I'm celiac, as well as I don't methylate, so my body doesn't detox things properly. So I hold on to all the chemicals around, and then it creates like numbness and tingling and things like that.
Wow. I remember the first time you showed me what happened to your skin when even gluten rubs up against your skin. Like you get big boils
and blisters, and it looks like I was like burnt in a fire, like these huge fluid filled like vesicles.
That's just wild to me, because that is something that is everywhere. So you must constantly be on guard.
Yeah, you feel kind of paranoid. And again, like, and then in certain times of my life, my OCD kicks on regarding my gluten touching, right? So I find when I'm out of balance, and yeah, I do latch onto those other little thoughts like that.
Yeah. Wow. So you, you're doing your routines, you're getting support, you're working through the OCD and get this figured out, and then you decide to go to kinesiology.
Yes.
Now, what drew you into that?
I've always liked the body. So starting like after high school, I know like you think you have to go to traditional schooling, and that's just kind of how my thought was, which I'm glad I did. But so I started actually in biology because I just loved science, and then as my health was kind of crumbling, it was like the universe just like forcing me down a certain path. So I really had to on my own be like, okay, how do my guts work? Like, how do they actually work? If I want to heal them, how do they work? So on my own time, I was figuring that out, and I'm like, well, I'm paying for school. Why don't I just take courses that I would just learn in school anyway. So then I think my own struggle with my own guts and my health kind of led me down the path of kinesiology, which then kind of as my autoimmune continued, it led me down the path of like natural medicine and Chinese medicine. So I always say that my curses were my biggest blessings. Like I was blessed with a curse. Like all these things that I went through led me to where I am now. And I think that's another reason why I can look at my autoimmune thing and I don't hate it. I'm grateful that it allows me to be compassionate. You know, people come in and they don't feel good or they have rashes or body pain, things you can't actually see on somebody. And I know what that feels like. So I know what kind of effort and what kind of care they need. So I wouldn't change it.
Yeah. It's interesting because I think everyone wants to know why. Why is this happening to me? Why is my body doing this? You can't always get the answers.
No.
And so when you didn't have the answers, how did you deal with that? What were your self-care? What were your tools that you used, from like 17 right through university to, handle these unknowns?
I think the biggest thing is to educate yourself and advocate for yourself. Like in all types of medicine or doctors or people kind of giving you advice and helping, like you have to understand how your own body works and just that empowerment coming from knowing from yourself. I think that was a big thing. And then just having a support system like my mom and then having an outlet. Like eventually the gym became a place where when I became more balanced, I could use the gym in a balanced way. And now I definitely do. It's an outlet, but I feel like you need a release of some sort, whether that be even laughing or whatever it may be, but just having that kind of like outward release.
Yeah. Of course, we need to release that emotion that builds up. But it's there's two books in particular that always kind of remind me of this. One is Dare by Barry McDonough, and it's all about his 4 steps in dealing with anxiety. But there's another one that is it Breathe? Oh, I can't remember the authors in the book's title right now. But they go through both of them talk about the importance of cardiovascular and physical exercise, just getting the heart going, and how it not only treats anxiety but helps to prevent anxiety. And they say even like 20 minutes a day, especially starting your day off is a tool to kind of settle the mind and settle the chi and get you in a position to kind of face that day. In one of the books, the author talks about particularly one patient who, whenever her anxiety comes on, she pulls out a jump rope and jumps the rope until the feelings go away. And so she carries it with her. Sometimes she's jumping rope
And I agree. I think even in Chinese medicine, so we know like on an energetic standpoint how that's moving the chi and kind of allowing things to flow, but then on a more scientific level, those are releasing certain like hormones and receptors in your brain that are kind of lacking maybe in your diet, in your system. That's why kind of getting proper supplementation and things like that, that's why that helps with that aspect of it, because not all mental illness is just situational. Some of it is an underlying like deficiency. So I think kind of having a little bit of both really do help.
Yeah. And again, something I remind patients a lot is that when we're treating, any condition, but particularly mental health, we need to treat what I consider like the hardware and the software. And the hardware is that, like particularly like in our clinic, we use the Acugraph. So we diagnose the energetic levels. We can see on the computer where the imbalances are. But when things are really imbalanced and really high, and even without the Acugraph, I'm sure everyone listening or, watching knows of times where they feel like revving really high and their mind just won't stop and everything's going. In that position, it is so hard to tell someone to just think positively or, stop doing that. You can't, can you? When you're in that state of imbalance and, it almost sounds like, you were on and off in that place for 3 to 5 years or more. And, to just tell someone, well, just do this. It's unkind and it's inconsiderate. We have to settle things, get that balance in a position where the body can start to heal. And then that's when you rewrite the software. And the software is like you were talking about, the way you're thinking and the way you approach it and, getting good habits to how you think and respond to people rather than, because you can't rewrite it when things are that imbalanced.
Yeah. And I think a big thing to remember to remind people is that it's not you. It's just an imbalance in your system, right? Like you aren't anxiety. Like you just are going through it or experiencing these feelings that manifest as anxiety or depression. It's not you, and it's not your destiny. You're not, okay, you have depression. Okay, you have it for your entire life. It comes and goes and changes, and it even can change how it even looks. Yeah. Maybe one time you don't want to hang out with friends, and the next time you are harming yourself, right? Like it comes in different ways, and it's not a life sentence.
Mm-hmm. I think too, it's the, as it shifts and changes over time, it's just continually finding that new approach to, okay, what's going to work for me today? What is it? The underlying balance of, like, especially when you think of anxiety, like Barry McDonough always talks about, helping people understand what that anxiety is about, because our mind can create, whether we are dreaming, daydreaming, or experiencing something, the brain doesn't know the difference. And so the body always responds in the same way. So if you think of something really anxiety driven that's coming up and you got to deal with, whether you're experiencing it or you're, just thinking of it in your mind, your body will respond with the fight or flight response. So now you've kicked up, all this anxiety and stress, and your body now is ready to fight or flight. So it's pumping you full of adrenaline. And of course, the symptoms to clear that adrenaline out, because you're not running, you're not fighting anyone. You get a racing heart rate, you start to sweat, you start to shake. All these symptoms where people start to panic and they think, I'm having a heart attack or I'm having a stroke or I don't know what this is. And this is just your body's way of releasing that anxiety. And it usually only takes 20 to 25 minutes. But if you fight it or you try to prevent it, you're creating a true adrenaline response. And now the body's flooded again, and it's got to keep these symptoms until it's done, until the adrenaline's run out. And that's why I find, some patients, they'll have an anxiety attack that'll last hours. Yeah. Because they won't trust their body and just let go and let it happen. Whereas if you can distract your mind and just, trust that these symptoms are normal and okay and just work it through, it'll be cleared up in 20, 25 minutes. But we're not taught that. Yeah. And that's not hearsay. That's science. That's biology. It's how it works.
I think, because I've been using the Acugraph with you for like 2 years in November, and I find that almost like one in two patients have like a really high overall like graph, right? Like they're like 130 and above. Yeah. And that shows to me that they're stuck in like a sympathetic nervous system state where they're like that adrenaline kind of like high revving, and they don't understand that when they're in that state, they can't ever come down and properly heal. So like their gut is never healing or being used properly. Their hormones aren't even a thing because you're just maintaining this high, this go, go, go. They're never able to recover from injuries or sickness, things like that, because they're just maintaining that high, which then it has to go somewhere, and it comes out as anxiety, right? Like it's a byproduct of this hormonal response. And if you look at any like animal after they've chased a prey, or chase the prey, or run away from the predator, things like that, they always like shake. So they release that like excess cortisol and excess stress hormones. But we as humans, we don't. We just clued and hold on and stay tight, and we don't learn to you have to have an outlet, whether it be the gym, whether it be acupuncture. It has to come out somehow.
And you regularly use the gym
Yeah, definitely.
as that tool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I should do that more. But it's so what kind of release do you get from your workouts? How do you describe the difference, like from before and after?
I find for me, working out's more like meditative. I mean, I like to do it first thing in the morning before I talk to anyone. I go there and like you're focusing on your breath. And in order to, for me, like, yeah, it's for like the way you look and whatever, but it's also like the way you feel and like the weight you're lifting. But to lift a certain weight, you have to focus on your breath, right? So it brings you back to like the breath. So breathing in, breathing out, pushing, and then pushing past like mental limits, right? So for me, it's a very like meditative, I would say spiritual kind of experience for me. And then some days it's, having a protein shake and talking to people and having fun. Like it's a social thing too. But for me, it's more of a meditative state that you get into.
Yeah. It's like your church.
It is like my church. Yeah. Every morning I need it. And even on my rest days, which I do rest and I need the rest, I have to then do something else, go for a walk or things like that. But yeah, you need to connect with your breath. And for me, it's like an hour and a half every day it's just my breath.
So how many, like what percentage of patients that you see, you've experienced, would you say are stuck in that fight or flight response and that like high cortisol state?
I think every other person, right? Even if it's like an injury, like, oh, I keep getting injured. I'm like, because you're stuck in this state and your body's never focusing on that. It's just maintaining this high. Or like, I have gut issues. I'm like, okay, like when you're in that sympathetic state, your blood goes to your limbs so you can run away from like the tiger chasing you. It never goes to your internal organs.
Yeah.
So again, bringing you down to that state, then your body can heal itself. So even though some people come in with pain or guts or hormones, they all stem back to maintaining that sympathetic state, which is part of our culture, right? The glorifying being burnt out.
Burning out, constantly being busy.
Yeah, having so many jobs. Yeah, the grind. Like I used to use that word, like, oh yeah, I'm just on the grind, and now I'm like embarrassed or like ashamed that I like did that to my body. Now I'm like, oh, I'm actually gonna like go for a nap, and like even on my Instagram, I try to post like the opposite side of things, where like, no, I'm hanging out, like, oh, I'm actually having like pizza tonight, like like showing that downtime, and glorifying napping and resting and taking time off.
And that's huge. Like you do a really good job of that. Anyone who's on Instagram, it's at Kenzie Fitness.
Yeah.
Okay. And how many followers do you have?
Like 14.4 thousand.
I thought she's going to do it right down to the last number. I just checked before I gave it up. Just joking. So, but one thing I want to say is like, I'm not a huge social media guy just because I'm lazy.
Boring.
And I'm terribly boring, but every once in a while I'll throw stuff up like we're going on a trip or whatever. That's just for my friends to know where we're at and what's happening. But one thing cool, anyone who's looking for someone interesting to follow with Mackenzie, you'll post your workout you're doing, or you post, this is what I'm making, this is my diet. Sometimes, like I know recently after you go see your therapist, you'll have like a decompression session with all your followers.
Yeah.
And you'll talk about, okay, this is what I'm dealing with. This is what I learned today. Which that's one of the main reasons why I wanted you to come in, because I think how many people are willing to do that and to trust that, one, that you feel this is so normal and so regular, that this shouldn't be anything anyone should worry about. What kind of feedback do you get from people when you share those sessions?
At first it was super nerve-wracking, like, oh, should I share that? Like, I don't know what people are going to think. But then after I started a little bit kind of like testing the waters, people want like the truth. And, I talk about like birth control methods that I use, like that I personally use, not what science says you should use, my period, like my bowel movements. I talk about those things that like we all deal with every single day, and you don't know who to talk to you don't know who to talk to about for those things, right? So people respond in like a very open and very relatable way. And to me, it's even therapy for me, like to me to talk about my autoimmune, talk about my body image, like to give back and to help people in those ways, like it actually helps myself heal. And again, that's going with like talking about, like we did at the beginning with the ongoing healing, right? Like I didn't just go see a counselor and like it was just done and I'm like over it now. Like I continuously have different thoughts and kind of go through it. But when I can reach out and help other girls with body image or some boys with body image issues, like that to me actually feeds my own healing as well by talking about it and to like explaining, like talking about what the thoughts are going through their head. Like that actually helps myself as well.
Yeah. And I think too, the more we talk about, mental health and our issues and see that other people are experiencing the same thing, and the more we normalize depression and anxiety, I think for a while there, like maybe 20 years ago, it was, well, you don't talk about it and you don't share that because, it's a choice. This is like a bad habit people have. Mm-hmm. And, it's their poor behavior, bad behavior. So don't spend time with people around that or talk about it because it just, it says that that's okay behavior. Mm-hmm. Like, that's pretty fucked up.
I think
and
so.
That's how it was.
Yeah, and I think even poop.
Yeah.
People can't talk about poop, and I'm like, we all poop. Like, why do we never talk about poop?
Yeah.
And same thing, mental health, like illness. Like we all go through things, and like, why don't we talk about that either?
Yeah, it's all a shit show. Why can't we talk about
it? Yeah, right? Right? But we all go every day. We all poop. Every day we all have anxiety or stress or these things. Like, it's a very normal thing. So even in my own personal life with my friends, I kind of, instead of asking, oh, how's your day or how's this? Mm-hmm. I ask them very specific questions to open up those, pathways of communication about their mental health, right? Yeah. And like, oh, how are you feeling regarding this? Even though I know that it might trigger them, but to talk about it instead of them just holding it within themselves, it does make a difference. And just having those conversations.
Yeah, because we don't always have access to a psychiatrist or a doctor.
Yeah.
And even when we do, it's limited.
Yep.
And I think, the more people understand you and your things, then the more they can support and help you and understand you.
Yeah.
I know, like, say, from my own experience, I grew up in a very Mormon home where you didn't talk about emotions. And, like, I had a terrible temper as a kid. And my dad would always say, people don't get mad, only dogs do. So I don't know if he's saying that, don't be mad or angry is different. I never figured that out. But all I know is whenever I express those feelings, you just don't do that. Mm-hmm. You're not an animal. Smarten up. Mm-hmm. Grow up,
Yeah.
And I've had these discussions with my son in our other podcast about, telling kids to grow up and what to do. There's a great episode on that. Really, Dad, it's called. So anyway, but from my own experience of kind of dealing with that, I had no one to talk to about my temper and what I was going through because it was just something that I was just supposed to stop. Mm-hmm. And, you couldn't rely on my faith because no one in there wanted to talk about it or understood or had any qualifications for it. Neither did my parents. They didn't understand anything about it because that's how they were raised and they were just doing what they were taught. Mm-hmm. So I think as we discuss things more and put it out there more, we're basically, putting out that hand to that person that's never had anyone talk about it. And here's someone talking about it and it's okay and it's all right. Oh, maybe I can share with someone or,
Yeah. An example would be actually, I had a patient today and I think I've seen him 3 times now. First time I saw him, asked about his poop, went red in the face, got all anxious, couldn't talk about it. And I'm like, okay. Second time, gave me a bit of details. Today he came in, first thing he talked about was his poop. And that just is an example of even mental health. Mm-hmm. You bring it up one time, people kind of maybe uncomfortable, whatever comes up from them. And you maybe say something again. They're like, oh, plant the seed in their head. And then the next time it becomes a more normal conversation where that patient knows that we can talk about poop. And that's a normal conversation we have. So same thing, it doesn't take much. It just takes opening up a couple times to create that space.
Yeah. Normalize it, make it safe and free to talk about that. I think, particularly of course, my experience over the years with patients is you'll get those in that you get the vibe right away. Okay, I can talk to this person about their emotions. Mm-hmm. And then you get the vibe from the others where they don't want to talk about anything. They just want to get better.
Yep.
But there's with some patients which are like, I'm sorry, but for you to get better, we have to talk about this. Yep. And you've got some, serious issues with some trauma or something you need to forgive or, give yourself permission to feel that way where they were never given that permission before or understood it. And it just kind of eats you up inside.
Well, and it manifests as disease, right? And I'm very scientific in the way that I think. And so I know that when you have these thoughts and emotion, it releases different chemicals and different receptors. And if they continuously happen, it actually does create disease in your body. And that's scientifically proven that different cancers and different things are caused by stuck or repressed emotions and trauma.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And of course, I'm sure you know some of this stuff. I'm not an expert on it. I don't know a whole lot about it, but, just with our gut biome, if the wrong bacteria flourish, and different bacteria grow based off of what they're being fed. And so for us, the bacteria that that has a big effect on us, causing depression and anxiety, feeds off of sugar.
Yes.
And, high glycemic carbs.
Mm-hmm.
So when we, have too much of that in our diet, those bacteria then proliferate and build up, and then it starts to affect our mind. It just blows me away.
Yeah, and people think that most of their hormones are produced in their brain, but like serotonin and dopamine are like 80 to 90% produced in your gut. So if your gut's not happy and you're eating high inflammatory foods or like you said, like sugars and like different types of carbs and that kind of stuff, it manifests then as you're lacking them. So depressions, anxieties. So your gut and your brain are very, very linked. And that goes back to embryology of how you were developed, right? You were a tube. You're just butthole, right? Like that's all you were. And like that's how your brain and your butt were just connected, right? And it goes back to that.
Yeah. So, to me to just think, wow, when you're dealing with your mental health, yes, you have we got to get that balance, energetically. We have to get you in a position you can talk about it and rewrite that software. We have to fix your gut, and get that balance in there, get the right foods so the proper bacteria build up so you can get those happy hormones and, stuff going again. And, we don't, we didn't even know this stuff 20 years ago, and so now so much more is opening up about what's really going on. We think it's just the brain, but it's far more than the brain.
Definitely not. Yeah. And I think it might be overwhelming for people. They're like, they have to just like a list of things they have to do to feel better. But I think it's exciting. It's just life, right? Like life, you're up and down. You just are continuously moving and growing and going through trauma and recovering and up and down. And you're not just, okay, you're sick and you're healthy. It's not that extreme. You spend your whole life struggling and going up. And I bet you haven't even touched on the things that I'm going to go through. But I don't just then recover and I'm fine and then go down again. That's just life. And I think it's pretty cool that we can go through those things and feel all the different types of emotions.
Yeah. So what are your, currently, you see a counselor, you're working out. Is there any other tools that you use for yourself to moderate or work with your mental health?
Definitely my diet. My diet is huge. If I'm not eating correctly, I've had like protein bars. I've had too much like processed food, things like that. I definitely, my gut goes a bit off. And then I notice that like, oh, I feel kind of anxious today. And I'm like, what have I been eating lately? So my main thing is my diet, I think. Like, I see a psychologist. I'm not really talking to her about too much right now. I just kind of like the perspective change sometimes. But I would say that and definitely my gut and then the gym. Those are my three kind of like main core things to be okay. And then forms of meditation as well, which is part of the gym, but then also just kind of like being with my thoughts. I find, finding that balance of not numbing yourself, but kind of like having fun, going out with friends, but then also sitting in your own crap, right? Like spending time sitting in those maybe feelings don't feel so good. They're not going to kill you. They just don't feel good, but they have to be felt in order to kind of process them. So, and that's what I do in my meditation. I don't just not think of anything. I just sit and like, oh, I feel kind of whatever today. And I'm like, okay, like, what does it feel like to feel like that? And you just kind of sit with it for a bit. And then I don't dwell on that whole feeling the whole day. I'm like, okay, now I'm going to go call up my grandma and talk to her. So finding that balance of being in it and kind of like working through it and feeling it, but then also moving forward and kind of releasing that.
That's awesome, because if you can recognize that, these feelings are here. Yeah. They're real. They're okay. They're normal to feel. I'm going to allow them to kind of be there with me, and then I'm going to, switch on. And one thing I always try to remind patients is emotions aren't bad.
No.
They're just signals, right? And it's whether or not we choose or whether or not we're imbalanced enough that we get stuck in that emotion. And it's that imbalance that leads to that being trapped in emotion that really causes a lot of problems. And especially if your physical symptoms are related to the organs involved with that.
Yeah, which could be a whole nother episode regarding
that.
that.
So like with your spleen and stomach and the worry and obsession and control, they're
my
all
large
linked.
intestine and not being able to let go of certain things, right? And like the letting go of control, right? Like with the OCD and the perfectionism, then I had large intestine issues my whole life. But then it goes even deeper to I have abandonment type feelings. And then that goes back to my lung and large intestine as well.
Yeah. And metal people usually have issues with their daddy.
Yep. That's the
earth, it's their mom, and metal, it's their dad. And that abandonment, the guilt, all of that. What did I do? Was it me? What did I do? Which is all bullshit, but it's what happens when we go there in our mind. Oh, that's really interesting. So what advice, you've talked about a lot of things, here, but let's say someone is in the throes of like that place where you when you're like 17, 18, what are some first steps and advice that you would give someone in that position?
Always tell them that it's not them, because I thought like, this is just me. Like, this is how I think. Like, and if someone almost to like, think of it as like a monster, a whole different character inside of you being like, it's not you. You just have this like being that's kind of like with you right now. And that's not who you are. You aren't these things. So have someone to sit and tell you that like, no, like this is not who you are. It's just something that you're going through and these different imbalances that are happening. That'd be the first thing. And then the second thing would be to check out the actual physiological like imbalances in your body. Or how are your hormones doing? How are you, deficient in certain nutrients? I think that would be the next thing. Those are the two, I think, main things that I would talk about.
And I think that first one is so important.
Yeah.
I see a lot of young kids, and of course the number one thing I treat kids for is anxiety. And they come in and they don't know that this isn't who they are, but they think, oh, this is who I am. I'm going to be like this my whole life. It's terrifying for these young people when they're already dealing with this like overwhelming anxiety and they're not even 12 yet. And so it's helping them understand. I always say this to the kids, even adults, like you said, you aren't this imbalance.
No.
This isn't you, it's the imbalance. Let's fix that imbalance. And I think too, it's, I like to say to patients, it's, we're not looking to make you feel like your old self. We want you to feel like your new self, like a whole new person, because you got to let go of all of that in order to make, space to be that new person, that healthy, balanced person, Again, I was, in our last episode, I was talking to Tom about, Wu Wei in Taoism. We need to create that emptiness and to allow some that peace to come and the growth and the healing. Especially now with, social media and everything, you're talking about your mind, and when you meditate to just be with your thoughts, it's so easy to use, media to continually distract us so we don't have to feel and we don't have to think, because we're just constantly having those things running in our heads. Yeah. And it's just escapism because we're not dealing with the problem. And I'm not saying you can't do these things, because there's times where, that's much better self-medication than alcohol or drugs.
Yeah. But it's the same mental pattern in your head. Like me being addicted to the gym and using that was no different than me using a drug. It was like in my brain, it's the same like signals that are kind of happening, right? And that's why I talked about going like the fine line of sitting in your emotions, but then also kind of moving forward, not with numbing things, but kind of, being around friends or positive, kind of more positive things. But people think that maybe going to the gym would have been a positive thing, but it's like your intention behind it, right?
Yeah. It's interesting. Gabor Mate is a doctor in Lower East Side in Vancouver. So he spent his whole career working with addicts. And through his research and, his books are fantastic, just explaining that he believes, it's like 95+% of all addicts have trauma, like deep trauma. And they're using those drugs to hide from those feelings, to bury those feelings, to make them go away. If you've been repeatedly raped or beaten or all these things, and those feelings are always there and you don't know how to deal with it, yeah, I could see how heroin would be an escape.
Yep.
Because for a while, you don't have to feel that. You don't have to think about it. It's just not there. But, whether you're using any, anything externally to try to make those feelings go away, whether it's exercise, whether it's, whatever it might be, we're all still addicts then.
Yeah.
And the difference between, an addict and someone who is, balanced isn't that the trauma's gone. It's they recognize the trauma and now they're treating their trauma and they're working with it.
Yeah, I just thought of something. I think that when you hold that trauma down, you're going to forever be like almost stuck in that state, whether you're numbing it, this and that. And then once you are able to kind of work with that healing side, the trauma's just a memory, but you're not emotionally charged with it. I think that's the difference, right? You kind of move past and you can now see your trauma in a different light, where when you're numbing yourself and you haven't really worked through it or healed it, you're stuck and you're still living it, even though you're pushing it down, but you're like you're in that body of that, where now I look back and I think of those times as like a distant memory or like a different life or a different person's story, because they're true and they're real and I lived it, but that's not my story anymore because I'm moving forward. Where if you stay in that numbing, you never move forward in life. You're just like, you're like stuck on the same page in a book forever and ever. Like you're just stuck on repeat, and you never will grow, right?
Yeah, you're truly damned because you're still in that moment.
But you don't think you are, but like you actually are, right?
Yeah, and you've always got one foot in the trauma and one foot in the moment, and you're trying to, live in the moment and do these things, but you can't because you always got that foot in the past and in the trauma, and it's always looming over you and trying to, direct your thoughts and your feelings constantly. So we have to be brave enough and, be willing to forgive and let go, that we can take that step out of the past and move into the present again. Yeah.
And it's scary. It's scary to do those things. Do you think that you're going to open up a can of worms and you have to go through it again or this and that? It's scary. And it's not that you're going to again, not to forgive, to never remember. It's just for your own healing and to feel better, to let go. It's not that it didn't happen and it wasn't horrible and it wasn't real. It was real, but to move forward, to feel good and to have that release, you need to let it go. In that sense of, you can remember it and think about it sometimes, but don't have that emotional charge with it. It's just letting go of that emotion that's attached to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And again, I've seen, over the years, there's those patients that they want to heal, they're ready to heal, they can, it help them get that balance, they can let go of the trauma, they can move on. But then I've seen those that they wear their trauma like a badge.
Yeah, it's their identity.
They've let their trauma become their identity, and it is still holding them back. It's still causing a lot of pain. They may be using that experience and memory for good. They may be helping other people, but some of them they can't truly heal because they still want to be in it because they've let it become so much of who they are. Yeah.
I know a girl who introduces, she introduced herself. Oh, hi, I'm so-and-so. I'm a cancer survivor, all the time to everyone she talks to. Yeah. And you look at her and you're like, okay, you had cancer. Yeah. You're also a mom, you're a daughter, you're this and you're that. There's so much more. That's just a little stage in your life, right? You'd be like, oh, I'm Mackenzie. I don't know. I don't even know where to go. I'm a celiac. No one cares. No one cares what I went through, right? It's how I am and how I show up today that matters.
Yeah. And it's not to belittle getting over cancer, but, if you can sit down and think about that, you're not that disease.
No.
You're not who overcame that disease. You are who's here now. Mm-hmm. And that's when we find that real peace and the real power, is when we're in the moment and can really, put our mind, our thoughts, and our efforts into that moment. If you're still holding on to that badge of honor and, I'm this, you're not fully in the moment, unfortunately. Yeah. And it will hold back healing. I remember I had a patient, same thing, cancer survivor. Well, she's been a cancer survivor 3 times now. And I'm like, she's like, I know I can beat it again. But I'm and again, I'm not saying I know what's going on or what it is, but to constantly put your mind in there, you can only think in some way that's going to affect your healing and put you in a position to get back where your mind is always at. And, you know, I just hope they can let go and just move on, enjoy the moment. You know, don't let that define you anymore. You know, because that's not who you're not those things. We're not, you know, I'm not my job. I'm not, you know, the things I've overcome. I'm me in this moment. And, you know, and again, I don't want anyone to feel ashamed of that or that it's this terrible thing, but there is a concern that, you know, that speak and that thinking can hold you back.
Yeah. And it's part of your journey. You know, it's made you into this person you've had to go over these things and learn these different qualities, but those things aren't you, right? It's not on your name tag. Like that's you on your name tag. These things have just shaped you, and you have now cool stories, and you've have different thought patterns. It's created you to be this person, but it's just kind of etching you along. It's not what you are.
Yeah. Super cool. I've kept you quite long already. Anything, you know, that, again, you know, we've talked about, you know, the two things that you say, I would say to someone in that position. What daily habits, what the things that, you know, you love and that you think more people should be doing to find a balance in their mental health?
One thing is just even paying attention to how you feel around certain people. For me, one thing I do every day would be I almost like filter out people that I surround myself with. If I don't feel good about myself or just feel good in general around them, I don't have to explain to you why I don't feel good around you, but I just don't want you in my life anymore. Having that negative kind of energy keeping you down holds you back from progressing. So it's just as simple as, you know, meeting someone like, okay, do I feel uplifted or do I feel a bit down? Okay, I feel down. Okay, I don't really want them anymore. Yeah. Nothing wrong with them. Don't have to explain why. It's just choosing to be around people that keep me in that uplifted state.
You know, and I talk to patients about this quite a bit, in that, you know, if, you know, someone in your life that's doing that, that is dragging you down, even if they're family.
Oh, yeah.
You don't owe it to anyone that you have to be around them and spend time with them when that's how they make you feel. There's not, you know, there's this weird rule that everyone thinks, well, they're family, so you have to. I'm like, no, you don't.
You're not meant
just
to be
because
like
some biological thing, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
You can choose your family, and if they're willing to treat you with respect and be kind, and you enjoy spending time with them, then great. Yeah. But if they're dragging you down, and, you know, like, and again, this can happen a lot with family or spouses where you're trying to grow, you're trying to change, you're trying to let go and improve, and they see that as a threat because they're like, whoa, I'm not doing anything. I'm not trying to be, you know, more balanced and heal and all this. And they'll try to pull you back to where they are so they aren't alone. And then they don't have to put the effort and the work in to heal and change.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, so the things I do every day would be that, kind of filtering in how I feel regarding people, just kind of paying attention, being aware of how I feel around that person. So that's one. Two is bone broth. I drink bone broth every morning for my gut. The third thing would be a release. You know, sometimes it is going to the gym. Other times it's like cleaning and dancing to crazy music and having that like physical kind of shaking off. The next time sometimes I scream. Maybe I go to acupuncture. Like every day I have some sort of release, whether it be laughing with friends or crying, like just some sort of release. At the end of the day, I've had to have something to kind of flush out what I was going through. Also, I just hold on to it, especially after work. You know, after work and taking on people's energies or kind of feeling their things, I have to have some kind of like release or kind of purge all of that out.
I like that. Yeah. And that's going to be different for everyone.
And it's different every day for me.
Yeah. So finding those tools. And I think too, like in our last episode, Tom talked a lot about journaling and how it made a huge difference in his life. You know, so when you have a day where a certain release works for you, make a note.
And it's not going to be every day. You don't like for journaling. I journal sometimes too. Yeah. Sometimes around like the full moon or this and that. Like, but I don't journal every day, or it becomes a chore, and then it's not that release. Yeah. You know, and like maybe I will scream that night, right? Maybe I will cry that night. Maybe I'll relate. Like it just is very different every day, and I don't know why. I just have to be. Yeah. Just a different thing.
And I think too, it comes from you recognizing you can feel that. You know, ooh, I feel heavy. I feel busy. I feel there's this sensation going on in my body, and I want that out. Yeah. And it's becoming aware enough that you recognize that every day. I think, unfortunately, some people, they've been traumatized so much their whole life that they're always in that state and they don't know the difference.
Well, people don't know how good you're meant to feel. Even with like your diet, like people don't know how good like your guts are supposed to feel. You're not supposed to be gassing and bloaty and all the time. Like that's not normal. Like even with like these feelings, like you're meant to feel calm and to feel still. And people don't understand that humans are meant to feel good.
Mm-hmm. I find that, and I'm sure you've experienced this many times now, when you get that patient that's revving really high, and you get them in the treatment room, and the needles, the treatment's done, and they come out and their countenance has changed so much they're like a different person.
Yeah, but they've had that release, right?
Yeah, and they're just like, wow, is this how I'm supposed to feel? And then you don't see them for a while, and then now though they know what it feels like to be light and balanced, and they're like, whoa, I could really feel a change. I need to get in here. And then they get the treatment and they come out again and they're like, holy shit, this is how I'm supposed to feel. And then that's where you get those patients that come in quite regularly, because that's their release. That's what works for them.
Yeah. And it's not us. We're not doing anything to their bodies. Your body is so smart and wonderful that we just give it little signals and then your body does it itself.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, we said we're reminding it what to do. It's a little stuck. It needs some encouragement and a reminder of what its role is. It balances itself out, and all of a sudden, that's where I'm supposed to be. Yeah. It feels so good. Yeah. I'm always amazed too. Kids are usually better at this. Like, I treat a lot of kids, and the kids will be, Mom, I need to get into acupuncture. I'm feeling off. And the parents are always like, wow, how do they recognize that? Well, kids are usually a little bit better at listening to themselves. Maybe not to their parents, but adults are terrible at listening to themselves. And a lot of that is they're so overwhelmed with so many other things that they don't pay attention to the core of what is going to give them that strength and balance to deal with everything. Well, that's super cool. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you
for taking this time. You have, for being so young, you've gone through so much already. And I hope, our patients understand that, and people understand that the wisdom and experience of what you've gone through is, an amazing tool to support and benefit others. Yeah. And so if you're just looking for like a daily little, boost and help, then follow Mackenzie on Instagram, because there's always cool stuff every day. Or come and see her in the clinic.
I'd like to point out that because I'm a recovering perfectionist, I didn't have to prepare for this. Where before I would be like, give me all the questions you have to answer and this, and prepare for all of it. But now that I am in more balanced state, those anxieties or those kind of imbalances I don't feel those things.
I was really proud of you. You're like, should I prepare for this? And I'm like, this is kind of what we're going to do, but you got this. And you're like, okay, yeah, I got this.
Yeah.
Whereas before, that would have been really hard for you.
Heck yeah.
So we're all continually growing and adapting and learning more about ourselves. Yeah. And I think, two things I always want people to understand. One, that, you still don't know who you are because you're always changing. Yep. And because we're always changing, that means that we can change. We can be someone else. We can let go. Yeah. It will eventually happen. We just have to embrace it. We have to make that space for us to change and become that person that
and
will
it's
bring us
fun.
peace.
Like being a perfectionist got me to where I am. I did a lot of good things, but now I'm like, oh, look how fun it is just to hang out by the river and to feel these other feelings of being calm and like to not have a day planner. And it's just like exploring these things and having fun. Like it's exciting. Like I can do whatever I want.
Yeah. I remember when you finished school, that just there's this like shift.
Yeah.
Like overnight. Yeah. Once you graduated, you're just like, oh yeah.
I know. Like, but how do I relive? Like, what do you do, right?
Yeah. And now it's just, it's taking advantage of that time and that balance of like, hey, how do I want my life to look?
Yeah.
And, making the steps and the decisions to keep that peace and balance there. Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate the time and effort. We're so grateful to have you here in the clinic. I just wanted to share this experience with as many as we can. And again, it's at Kenzie Fitness on Instagram. And, you also do Skype things online with patients too.
Absolutely, yeah.
So through our Jane app, patients can sit down and they can meet with you on video conference, and you do consultations for diet and fitness and all that stuff too. So if anyone's out there, you're the professional there. I'm not. Mine is more in, mental health and pain. But as far as so much more about, the science aspect and the hormones and the gut and all that stuff, that's where you're really going to benefit people.
That's why we're good at the clinic, because we do like the whole thing, but we just both have different strengths.
Yeah. And again, another thing I always really believe in is it's, the patient needs to find the healer that fits them. And you can't be the healer for everyone, because you're not the right personality, or you don't have the right tools, or whatever.
Or if I'm in a different stage in my life, right? Maybe like in a few years from now, like I'll be changing and growing into different areas, right?
Exactly. And those people that need you at that time will find you. Yeah, it's amazing. All right, thanks everyone for spending this hour with us.
Yeah. How long was Tom's?
Tom's was about an hour and 15 minutes.
Dang it.
Yeah. But, we could have gone forever with Tom.
I know.
Tom loves to talk. All right. So thank you. We're excited to continue this and share this with everyone. So if you feel any of these concepts or ideas benefited you, please rate and review the podcast, or make a comment on the video and share with those that could benefit from this stuff, because we're really working hard and getting some great people in here. We're trying to do something a little bit different with this podcast, in that I find the common, like the interview podcast currently is all about who's the next famous person we can get on this podcast. And there will be some people in there eventually, and people that I know that we'll invite on the podcast. But I want to hear from real people. And like you shared with us today, those real experiences and real techniques, because someone is going to listen to this and they're going to see themselves in you, and it's going to change their life.
Well, it's not my professional view on mental health. It's my personal review on mental health, which are very different.
Exactly. And that's what I want to talk about. Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.
See you later.
It was so great to speak with Mackenzie. She is a lot of fun and an amazing person. I am still amazed at how much she has overcome and gone through in such a short life, and how strong it's made her, and the resilience that she continues to show every day to overcome. And it's just made her a better practitioner and a better person overall. I'm very grateful that I got to, one, have her in my life and to meet her, but that she'll continue to be in my life working as my associate here in the clinic. She brings so much to our clinic and so much to our community, and I'm really grateful that she's there to do that for us. And it's interesting, as I review these podcasts after I listen to them after recording, and to see those, to better understand that person and to fit them within the 5 elements. Now, Mackenzie is very metal within the 5 elements. Again, someone that likes structure, that likes rules with her OCD and her, drive for perfection. She fits into a bit of the earth and metal, because again, earth people are so much about control and perfection. But hers comes more from her OCD, and she's always searching for more knowledge and truth. And again, it's very interesting too, within the 5 elements and within that personality of the metal element, there's huge issues over abandonment. And, with her father leaving her at a young age, and then having all the symptoms related to the metal element, with the large intestine, with her skin, with immunity, all of these things fit in within the 5 elements. And as she continues to address not only the physical aspects, but the emotional aspects of it, she gets greater control over her symptoms and her wellness. Now, it is a constant battle for her, as she, again, we talked about in the podcast, she can't even have gluten touch her. And I've seen the boils. It's crazy to continually live in a world where that is so abundant, and you have to continually protect yourself from it. I'm sure there's many people listening to this podcast right now that have similar conditions, where they're constantly on guard. And that's the same for anxiety and depression. We're constantly on guard and how our emotions are going to manipulate us and how others will manipulate our emotions and affect our anxiety and depression. Within the course, the 5 Elements Letting Go, we give you an opportunity to understand better yourself, your personality, how the emotions affect you and their purpose. Again, I continually remind people that emotions are signals of perceived imbalance. They are not us. They are a trigger and a signal of how we're interpreting our current situation. Once we understand that they're a signal and that they're not these things that externally control us or something that will make us respond and react in a certain way, that they are simply signals that we have internally created by our interpretation and understanding of our environment. And if we have a belief system or experiences that lets us know, oh, when that happens, I feel abandoned. Or when this happens, I feel that things are unjust and unfair. It triggers those emotions, and then we are sent that emotion, whether it's sadness and loss, or whether it's anger, to teach us and show us that's how we're interpreting the situation. It is our choice then to either repress that emotion or express it. Neither help us, neither solve the problem. They just cause further issues. And the key to the 5 Elements Letting Go is the synergistic expressions, understanding that you can transform that energy created from that emotion and turn it into action to make change in your life and to let go of that emotion so it doesn't control you. It doesn't overcome you. It doesn't make you stuck. And I'm sure everyone listening to this can remember one point or another where they were stuck in an emotion and it basically infected their whole life and experiences because they couldn't let go of that emotion. This is the freedom that I have found within the 5 elements. For myself, it was anger. Anger as a kid, I saw injustice everywhere. And a lot of it was just being, horseshoed into a life that didn't fit me. And once I, was brave enough and strong enough to pull myself out of that, that's when I found peace in my life. And the same is for everyone. If you want to learn more about your emotions, their purpose, more about your personality type and the 5 elements, then the 5 Elements Letting Go is for you. You can find out more in the notes below. There is you can find more about the course at jaredmccallum.thinkific.com, or you can go straight to my website at jaredmccallum.com, where you can learn more about me and the services I offer, but also learn more about the course. And that is my invitation. That is my purpose and goal pretty much in life at this time, is to help people understand themselves, to find peace and to, live in the moment and let go of the power that emotions have over us. You have control. You just have to, flip it on in your mind on what those emotions are for. It gives you great power once you understand that they're just signals and that you don't have to be beholden to your emotions any longer. Thank you again for listening. I really enjoy this, and it's something that we will continue. This is our second podcast. Next up is Tim Cortice. I'm really working on it. You'll listen in the next podcast with him that I screwed up right away, but we figured it out together. He's a great guy. So you'll really enjoy that one. And we have about 6 other guests lined up, and it's not going to stop. Once we release these first few, we will be doing podcasts weekly, and you'll get to know some really amazing people. And, the more we talk about mental health, the more at peace we feel about it. And, of course, the more tools you're going to learn as you listen to these other people. So please subscribe. Take the time to rate the podcast on Apple or wherever you get your podcasts from. Please share your opinions. Let us know how we can make the podcast better. And if you have any questions, send us a message on my website or on our Instagram, Facebook, all of that. You can get a hold of us. Take care of yourself. Don't beat yourself up. You got this. You are loved. Have a great day.